Access for All, ADA 30th Anniversary. In 2020, ECA celebrates the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. For decades, the Fulbright program has supported hundreds of grantees with disabilities. The first known Fulbrighter with a disability, Davis Duty, who is blind, walks with Senator J. William Fulbright. In 1995, ECA launched the National Clearinghouse on Disability and Exchange to increase participation of persons with disabilities in international exchange programs. Every year, American spaces around the globe host millions of visitors, many of whom are persons with disabilities. Since 2010, the International Visitor Leadership Program has organized more than 120 projects focused on disability rights and social inclusion. Since 2014, the Mandela Washington Fellowship has included more than 200 fellows with disabilities. The Flex and Yes programs together have included more than 575 secondary school students with disabilities. The American Film Showcase hosts screenings, discussions, and workshops around the world, including on the rights of persons with disabilities. In 2016, thanks to an AEIF grant, Exchange alumni were able to establish Project Enable, the first disability-friendly digital hub in Nigeria. Cultural envoy, musician, and human rights ambassador Tony Memel has toured in 17 countries on behalf of ECA cultural programs. Since 2018, 40% of all sports visitor exchange programs have focused on disability sports and inclusion. In 2020, Education USA Mongolia designed interactive online advising and educational information packages for deaf and hard of hearing students. In 2020, Paralympian John Register traveled with the U.S. Speaker Program to the United Arab Emirates to raise disability rights awareness. In 2020, ECA commemorates the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act by launching the Access for All campaign. Join us as we celebrate our alumni and Access for All. Hashtag Access for All.
On the day Bush signed the ADA, we convinced him that we should make it a great big celebration since there are so many people directly affected by the passage of the ADA.
Well, it was a glorious day. July 26, 1990 was a clear blue sky, the sun was out, there were 3,000 or 4,000 people, many with disabilities and their families, on the south lawn of the White House. And the president was on a platform with leaders of the disability community to sign the bill into law.
I don't know how you describe the signing ceremony. We had people everywhere. They were on gurneys, white canes, wheelchairs, walkers, and seeing-eye dogs. I mean, any device that helped people get around was represented that day. We covered the White House lawn for sure.
The most people ever gathered on the White House lawn for a signing was July 26, 1990. Never been that many people there for a signing of a bill before. Biggest group ever in the history of this country.
I had the pleasure and the real privilege to ride to the ADA signing ceremony with John McCain. So we drove right into the White House, and then we walked outside and became part of the masses. The South Lawn was packed with people. All of them there had worked and worked and worked to see the law pass. So it was a shining day and a shining moment. And I mean, history and the weather just cooperated in a way you don't see very often.
I sat with Senator Kennedy in the 89th row back or something like that. And, you know, all the pomp and circumstance began, and we were kibitzing with each other and kind of looking over the crowd, and Kennedy leaned over to me and he said, Pat, I said, yes, Senator. I got a little problem here. And I said, what's that, Senator? He goes, what happens if he reads the bill before he signs it? I said, don't worry. I mean, the senator knew that nobody really understood the impact of what this piece of legislation was going to do.
I now lift my pen to sign this American.
And then the president ended his brief remarks with that clarion call, let the shameful wall
Let the shameful wall
of exclusion
finally
come tumbling down.
finally come tumbling down.
And that sent a tremor through the entire crowd.
Best moment was President Bush was there, he was signing the ADA, Evan Kemp was on one side, Sandy Perino was on the other side, and there was a priest, Reverend Wilkie, and he had no arms. So the president signs the legislation, and then he hands the pen to Evan, hands the pen to Sandy, and then President Bush hands the pen to Reverend Wilkie with no arms. So he picks up his foot and grabs it with his toes. Like, it's the perfect moment right there.
There was a lot of pent-up emotion and anticipation in that crowd. And when the president finally put his signature on the bill, a great roar of approval went up, and it was extraordinarily special. And then the rest of the day was given over to celebration. A lot of folks who had put in years, decades, trying to reach the point that was achieved that day, let their hair down and had a lot of fun.
Just this feeling of, we did it. I mean, here we were, having been told for so long how powerless we were, and here we were with the President of the United States signing this document that was our Emancipation Proclamation, essentially. It was just a fantastic feeling.
It was one of the most electric moments in time. It was like we were transported to another place. We were 20 feet off the ground. 3,000 people were 20 feet off the ground. It was like a tremendous party. A very controlled, love, respect, joy, accomplishment, satisfaction. Our time had come. We finally were recognized as citizens of the world.
I just thought of how much my brother had been discriminated against all his life because of his disability. When you see something like this and you see the president signing it, that goes through your head. You think about this, you think, well, maybe this isn't in time to help my brother, but you think about how many other people won't have to go through that, because of this. I just thought, gee, this is something that I think is going to unleash a lot of people with disabilities in this country to do things that they never thought they could do before.
I had the sense that the moment was one that I would never forget, that there was a ceremony, and the ceremony was very important, but the moment was much more than that. The moment was a recognition of the rights and abilities of people with disabilities, a recognition of respect for people with disabilities, a recognition of the end of discrimination against people with disabilities, and that the spirit of that, the feeling, the whole crowd, was that in American Sign Language there's a sign for that, and the sign is, it's called pa. Pa. That's how you make a sound when you sign it. Pa. And that was a pa day. That was the day that you guys saw us as your peers and not as someone who needed your help.
name is Martin Davis. Currently, I'm an estimator and project manager for R.O.V.E.R.S Restorations in Schenectady, New York. We handle everything from simple projects where we're replacing a door or a window for a customer, all the way up to where we're going in and doing commercial work where we would be designing and building projects where we have to work with architects and engineers. In 2006, late 2006, just before Christmas, I was diagnosed with epithelioid-sarcoma, which is a rare cancer. It starts in the outer regions of the body, limbs, arms, legs, and travels in from there. It started in my left forearm. I originally had limb-saving surgery done and was recovering from that, and the cancer came back again. I had amputation at that point in the summer of 2007.
Marty amazes me every day. People say to me, how does he do that? Or they'll see something that he's done and say, how does he do it? And I say, I live with him, and I'm not sure how he's accomplished it. There are things that he gets through, and I'm not sure how he did it, but he always figures out a way and is positive about it.
Martin came to me a couple years ago looking for services to re-enter the workforce. He was a self-employed general contractor running his own construction business.
I started the job search with Darlene through the Ticket to Work program. I felt like I didn't have the skills it took to even fill out a resume in today's world. Everything has changed so much since it had been 15 years since I filled out a resume.
So I assisted Marty with resume development. We reviewed interview strategies and also updated him on the technology needed to obtain employment in the field. There's a lot of different work incentives available, and the one that really assisted Marty was the 9-month trial work period, where he was able to obtain his Social Security benefits as well as his salary.
The 9-month trial period that's offered through the Ticket to Work program it's almost soothing in a way. Is that, okay, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try this, but if something happens and it doesn't work, it's not like I'm cut loose and I'm out there on my own now. I went back to work for someone else to prove that I could. I felt like I needed to be a part of something again, to be a part of something bigger than just myself tinkering around, and I found it really quick.
Marty's work ethic is a rare one, to be honest with you. He's always in here well before he needs to be. He stays later than he needs to be. He's always here when I have questions about projects. He's been a great mentor of sorts to help me get through projects with a lot of stuff that I'm not familiar with. His experience really has been unprecedented by a lot of other people.
Being employed in a full-time position puts a certain amount of structure in your life, which I think we all need as human beings. It sets a time when you have to be somewhere and you have to be home, and where I work it's very flexible, completely flexible, but I set it myself so that I need to be there at a certain time, and I need to accomplish certain things at certain times, and I think we all need that kind of structure.
Marty always wants a challenge, or what we refer to as a project. He's been working full-time for R.O.V.E.R.S for 2 years, and last fall said, I want a project. That's when we bought this house that he's been totally renovating for our daughter and her family to live in.
I see the project I'm working on for my daughter as something that I've always wanted to be able to do for her, and now that she has a family of her own, I felt compelled to be able to make this happen for them. It's an old farmhouse built in 1900 that needed complete remodeling. It's going to be a fantastic home for her and her family, and it's going to be close to us, which we kind of like. We like keeping them close to home. The Ticket to Work program helped me gain my own independence again. You don't feel like you're tied to that monthly check anymore. You're out there and you're accomplishing things. You're accomplishing goals. You're finding your own way through life rather than being tied to this to this system.